2026 is closer than you think, and here's the uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask you. What if nothing changes? What if the same habits follow you into the new year? The same excuses, the same unfinished goals, the same version of you that knows better but keeps choosing comfort anyway. Imagine waking up 1 year from now, same mirror, same regret, same quiet disappointment you try to ignore during the day but feel heavy at night. That feeling right there, that's not fear, that's awareness. Because deep down, you already know something is wrong. Not with the world, not with people with you. Nobody warns you that rebuilding yourself feels like losing everything first. It feels lonely. It feels violent inside your mind. It feels like you're breaking before you're becoming. But listen closely. The most dangerous moment in a person's life is not when they fail. It's when they get comfortable with who they become. And right now, 2026 isn't asking for motivation. It's demanding a decision to stop negotiating with weakness, a decision to stop delaying your potential, a decision to finally face yourself without filters, without excuses, without mercy. This is not about setting goals. This is about tearing down the version of you that can't handle pressure. Because if you're willing to suffer now, if you're willing to walk alone for a while, if you're willing to become uncomfortable on purpose, 2026 won't recognize you. And the question is, are you brave enough to let the old you die? Before anything new can be built, something old has to collapse. That's the part nobody posts about. Nobody celebrates it. But it's the law of real transformation. You don't rebuild yourself while pretending everything is fine. You rebuild yourself when you finally admit that something is broken and that the damage is deeper than you wanted to believe. Destruction isn't the enemy. Denial is. Most people spend their lives running from this moment. They cover it with distractions, noise, entertainment, temporary pleasures, fake optimism. They tell themselves they're doing okay because admitting the truth would hurt too much. But here's the reality. The life you're unhappy with didn't appear overnight. It was built slowly, choice by choice, compromise by compromise, excuse by excuse. And until you accept that, nothing changes. Accepting destruction means standing still long enough to feel the weight of your own decisions. No filters, no blame, no stories to make yourself feel better. Just honesty. Brutal, uncomfortable honesty. It means looking back and admitting where you became lazy, where you chose comfort over growth, where you betrayed your own potential. That hurts. It's supposed to. Pain is the receipt of awareness. You don't grow by protecting your ego. You grow by breaking it. Ego tells you that you're already enough, that circumstances were unfair, that people held you back, that timing was wrong. Ego loves excuses because excuses keep you safe from responsibility. But responsibility is power. The moment you say, I did this to myself, something shifts. You stop being a victim. You stop waiting to be rescued. You take ownership. And ownership is the foundation of every rebuild. There's a reason destruction feels like chaos. When the old structure collapses, everything is exposed. Your weaknesses, your fears, your insecurities, the lies you told yourself to survive. That's not failure, that's truth finally breathing. You can't build on lies. You can only build on truth. And truth is messy at first. You might feel lost, confused, angry, ashamed. You might question your worth. You might feel like you're behind in life, like everyone else figured it out and you didn't. Let me tell you something important. That feeling doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've stopped lying to yourself. And that puts you ahead of most people. Destruction strips you down to what's real. When things fall apart, you find out who you are without validation, without applause, without external identity. You discover whether your confidence was real or borrowed, whether your discipline existed only when things were easy, whether your values were strong or convenient. This is the test most people fail because they rush to rebuild too quickly. They want a new routine, a new goal, a new identity, anything to avoid sitting with the truth. But rushing is another form of avoidance. You have to sit in the ruins long enough to understand why they collapsed. You have to analyze the cracks, the weak foundations, the shortcuts you took. Otherwise, you'll rebuild the same life with a different look and call it growth. Real rebuilds are slow at the beginning because awareness takes time. Accepting destruction also means forgiving yourself without excusing yourself. That balance matters. Beating yourself endlessly won't rebuild anything. Neither will pretending it didn't matter. You acknowledge the damage, learn from it, and move forward sharper. Guilt is useless if it doesn't turn into discipline. Regret is useless if it doesn't turn into structure. Understand this. The version of you that got you here cannot take you where you want to go. That version might have tried their best with what they knew at the time. Respect that. But don't cling to it. Growth requires separation. You're not betraying your past self by outgrowing them. You're honoring them by finishing what they couldn't. Destruction also humbles you. It reminds you that you're not invincible. That talent without discipline fades. That confidence without consistency collapses. That potential unused becomes frustration. Humility is dangerous in the best way. It keeps you learning. It keeps you learning. It keeps you hungry. When everything falls apart, you're given a rare opportunity, a clean slate internally. You're no longer trapped by expectations because you've already disappointed them. You're no longer afraid of losing status because you've already lost it. That's freedom. Quiet, uncomfortable freedom. But freedom nonetheless. This is where real strength is born. Not in winning, in rebuilding after losing, not in success, in the discipline you develop when nobody is watching. The people who become unstoppable aren't the ones who avoided destruction. They're the ones who walk through it without running, without numbing themselves, without pretending. If your life feels like it's falling apart right now, don't panic, don't rush. Don't distract yourself, pay attention. Something false is being removed. Something weak is being exposed. Something necessary is ending so something stronger can begin. But only if you accept it. Acceptance doesn't mean liking it. It means respecting the process. It means understanding that the breakdown is not the opposite of growth, it's the entrance to it. Once you stop resisting the fall, you gain clarity. And clarity is the blueprint for rebuilding yourself properly this time. You don't rebuild from confidence. You rebuild from humility. You don't rebuild from motivation. You rebuild from truth. And the truth is this: if you're willing to face the destruction honestly, without excuses and without fear, you're already stronger than you think. This is the moment where the rebuild becomes possible. Not because you feel ready, but because you're finally honest. Self-discipline is not a personality trait. It's not something you're born with or lucky enough to have. It's a decision you make every single day, especially on the days you don't feel like it. And if you're serious about rebuilding yourself, this is where everything either changes or collapses again. Ruthless self-discipline begins the moment you stop trusting your feelings. Feelings are unstable. They change with sleep, weather, mood, praise, rejection. If you let feelings run your life will always look random. Discipline is choosing standards over emotions. It's doing the work when motivation is silent. It's showing up when nobody is clapping. It's keeping promises to yourself even when breaking them would be easier. Most people wait to feel ready. Ready never comes. You don't wake up disciplined. You wake up tired, distracted, doubtful. Discipline is what you apply on top of that. It's force, controlled force, directed pressure. And at first it feels violent inside your mind. Every part of you will resist. Your body will negotiate. Your brain will create excuses that sound logical. Tomorrow will be better. I deserve a break. One day won't matter. That voice is the enemy. Ruthless discipline means you don't debate with weakness. You don't argue. You don't explain. You act. You get up. You move. You execute. The moment you start negotiating with yourself, you've already lost. This kind of discipline is built in small, brutal moments. Waking up when it's uncomfortable. Training when your body feels heavy. Working when distractions are screaming for attention. Choosing boredom over entertainment. Choosing progress over pleasure. These moments look insignificant, but they stack. And over time, they rewire you. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's hard, you build self-trust. And self-trust is rare. Most people don't trust themselves because they've broken too many promises to themselves. That creates quiet insecurity. Loud confidence can hide it, but discipline fixes it. Slowly. Permanently. Ruthless discipline also means structure. You can't rely on willpower alone. Willpower runs out. Structure carries you when motivation disappears. Fixed wake, up times, non-negotiable training, scheduled work blocks, clear boundaries. Discipline loves routine because routine removes decision-making. When something becomes automatic, weakness has fewer chances to interfere. Understand this. Freedom comes from discipline, not comfort. Comfort makes you soft. It trains your brain to avoid resistance. Discipline does the opposite. It conditions you to move toward difficulty. And once you've trained yourself to do hard things daily, fear loses its power over you. You stop panicking under pressure. You stop quitting when things get uncomfortable. You become reliable to yourself and to others. There's a reason disciplined people walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Their mind is quieter because they're not constantly fighting guilt, procrastination, and regret. They've already paid the price up front. Most people try to avoid pain and end up living with it daily. Disciplined people choose pain intentionally and live with peace. Ruthless self-discipline also requires sacrifice. You will have to say no a lot. No to distractions. No to people who don't understand your focus. No to habits that feel good but lead nowhere. No to instant gratification. That will make you unpopular in some rooms. Let it. You're not here to be liked. You're here to rebuild yourself. Loneliness is part of discipline. When you start changing, your old environment will resist. Not because you're wrong, but because your growth reflects their stagnation. Stay focused. Silence is a weapon. You don't need to announce what you're doing. Let consistency speak. Discipline is also about standards, not goals. Standards. Goals are things you chase. Standards are who you are. You don't try to be disciplined. You become someone who doesn't skip workouts, someone who doesn't waste mornings, someone who finishes what they start. When discipline becomes identity, it stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like self-respect. And don't misunderstand ruthless discipline as cruelty toward yourself. It's actually the highest form of self-care. You're not being hard on yourself. You're refusing to let yourself rot. You're refusing to settle. You're refusing to stay weak just because it's familiar. There will be days you fail. That's not the problem. The problem is letting one failure turn into a pattern. Disciplined people recover fast. They don't spiral. They don't quit. They reset immediately. No drama. No self-hate. Just correction and forward movement. Over time, something powerful happens. What once felt hard becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. Your tolerance for discomfort increases. Your confidence becomes calm instead of loud. You stop seeking validation because you're too busy executing. Ruthless self-discipline turns you into someone who doesn't need to hype themselves up. Someone who doesn't rely on external motivation. Someone who knows quietly that they can be trusted under pressure. And that's dangerous in the best way. Because when life hits hard, when things go wrong, when emotions try to take over, discipline holds the line. It keeps you moving forward when others freeze. It keeps you focused when others panic. It keeps you building while others complain. If you want to rebuild yourself, don't ask for motivation. Demand discipline, daily, relentlessly, without excuses. Because discipline doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you are. You cannot rebuild yourself while protecting the version of you that created the mess. That version had its moment. It did what it knew how to do. But if you're honest, it also made compromises that slowly weakened you. It chose comfort when discipline was required. It chose familiarity over growth. And now, if you're serious about changing, that identity has to go. This is the part most people avoid because it feels like death. And in a way it is. Your identity is not just who you think you are. It's how you act when nobody is watching. It's your habits, your reactions, your excuses, your standards. Killing the old identity means you stop defending those patterns just because they feel like you. You stop saying, "That's just how I am." That sentence has destroyed more potential than failure ever could. The old identity survives on repetition, same routines, same thoughts, same social circles, same environment. You wake up, act the same, think the same, and wonder why nothing changes. Growth breaks that loop. And breaking it feels violent because the brain hates uncertainty. It would rather keep you miserable than unfamiliar. That's why killing the old identity feels uncomfortable, lonely, and confusing. You no longer fully belong to your old life, but you haven't yet earned the new one. You're in between. Most people panic here and run back to what's familiar. That's where transformations die. Letting go means detaching from habits that once comforted you but now control you. Late nights with no purpose, endless scrolling, junk routines, weak self-talk. These aren't small things. They are signals of identity. You don't break a habit. You replace the person who needs it. It also means reevaluating the people around you, not with anger, not with ego, but with honesty. Some people know you only as the old version. They benefit from you staying the same. Your growth threatens the role they've assigned you. When you change, the dynamic changes, and not everyone will like that. This doesn't mean everyone must go, but it does mean you stop shrinking to fit places you've outgrown. You stop explaining your discipline. You stop seeking approval for your silence. You let distance happen naturally. Growth doesn't need announcements. It needs consistency. Killing the old identity also means abandoning the stories you tell yourself. Stories like, I'm not disciplined, I always mess things up, I'm too late, this is just my luck. These narratives feel safe because they explain failure without demanding change. But they poison progress. Every time you repeat them, you reinforce the old version. The new version requires new language, new standards, new internal dialogue. You stop saying, I'll try, and start saying, I will. You stop romanticizing struggle and start respecting structure. You stop waiting to feel confident and start acting with discipline. Confidence follows behavior, not the other way around. There's also grief in this process. You may miss who you used to be, even if that person was flawed. Familiar suffering feels safer than unfamiliar discipline. You might miss old routines, old jokes, old comfort zones. That's normal. Don't confuse nostalgia with truth. Just because something is familiar doesn't mean it was good for you. The old identity will fight back hard. On tired days, it will whisper, you're doing too much. On lonely days, it will say, you've changed. On difficult days, it will promise relief if you go back. Recognize that voice. That's not intuition, that's resistance. Killing the old identity requires replacement, not emptiness. You don't just remove behaviors, you install new ones. Early mornings instead of late nights. Training instead of scrolling. Reading instead of numbing. Reflection instead of reaction. These choices slowly construct a new self, brick by brick. And at first, it will feel fake. You won't feel like the disciplined person yet. You won't feel like the focused person yet. Do it anyway. Identity is built through repetition, not belief. You act your way into a new identity, not think your way into it. This process demands patience. You won't feel new overnight. You will feel awkward. You will feel like an imposter in your own growth. That's a sign you're doing it right. Comfort means you haven't changed enough. Discomfort means the old identity is losing ground. Eventually, something shifts. The new habits stop feeling forced. The old behaviors start feeling foreign. You catch yourself reacting differently, choosing differently, walking away from things that once controlled you. That's when you realize the old identity didn't die in one moment. It faded because you stopped feeding it. And here's the truth most people won't tell you: killing the old identity doesn't make you heartless. It makes you honest. You're not rejecting who you were. You're refusing to be trapped by it. Growth is not disrespect to your past. It's proof that you learned from it. The world doesn't need you to stay the same. It doesn't reward potential. It responds to execution. And execution requires a version of you that doesn't hesitate, doesn't overthink, doesn't hide behind comfort. To rebuild yourself, you must be willing to be misunderstood for a while, to walk alone for a while, to disappoint the expectations attached to the old you. That's the price. But on the other side of that loss is freedom. Freedom from old habits, freedom from old limitations, freedom from the identity that kept you stuck. You don't evolve by adding more to who you are. You evolve by letting go of who you are no longer willing to be. And once the old identity is gone, the rebuild finally has space to begin. Rebuilding yourself is not about fixing one area and ignoring the rest. A strong body with a weak mind collapses under pressure. A sharp mind with a neglected body burns out. And without grounding, both can turn into arrogance or chaos. Real rebuilding happens when the mind, body, and spirit are aligned, working together, not fighting each other. It always starts with the mind, because the mind decides everything before the body ever moves. Your mind has been trained, whether you realize it or not. Trained by repetition, by what you consume, by how you respond to stress, by what you allow yourself to think when things go wrong. If you've lived undisciplined, your mind has learned avoidance. If you've lived distracted, your mind has learned noise. Rebuilding the mind means retraining it to handle discomfort without panic. Mental strength is not positive thinking. It's controlled thinking. It's the ability to stay present when pressure rises, to act instead of react, to stay focused when emotions try to hijack your decisions. This kind of strength is built through deliberate discomfort, choosing hard things on purpose, silence instead of noise, focus instead of multitasking, reflection instead of constant stimulation. You rebuild the mind by slowing it down, by spending time alone without escape, by thinking deeply instead of scrolling endlessly. At first, this feels unbearable because the mind is addicted to distraction. But once you push through that resistance, clarity begins to form. And clarity is power. A clear mind doesn't overreact. It doesn't chase validation. It doesn't crumble under uncertainty. As the mind strengthens, the body must follow. The body is not separate from your mindset, it's the physical expression of it. A neglected body sends a constant signal of weakness to the brain, low energy, poor posture, shallow breathing. These things quietly affect how you think, how you speak, how you show up. Rebuilding the body is an act of respect. It's saying, I care enough about myself to be strong. Training isn't about aesthetics, it's about resilience. It's about teaching your nervous system that discomfort is survivable. That effort is normal. That fatigue doesn't mean stop, it means adapt. When you train consistently, something changes beyond muscle and endurance. You begin to trust yourself. You know that when things get hard, you don't quit immediately. That confidence carries into every area of life. You stand firmer, you speak calmer, you move with intent. Strength creates presence. Discipline in the body sharpens discipline in the mind. Early mornings, structured movement, controlled breathing. These practices ground you in reality. They pull you out of overthinking and into action. And action clears doubt faster than any amount of planning ever will. But without spirit, even the strongest mind and body eventually drift. Spirit is not about religion alone. It's about meaning, direction, values. It's the internal compass that keeps you grounded when ego grows and when life humbles you. Without it, discipline turns cold. Strength turns aggressive. Focus turns obsessive. Rebuilding the spirit means reconnecting with something bigger than your ego. It means acknowledging that you're not in control of everything, only your effort. It means humility, gratitude, stillness, time spent reflecting on who you're becoming, not just what you're achieving. This grounding keeps you balanced. It reminds you why you're rebuilding in the first place, not to dominate others, not to prove worth, but to live with integrity, to be reliable, to be present, to be at peace with your effort, regardless of outcome. When mind, body, and spirit align, something rare happens. You stop seeking validation. You stop chasing approval. You become internally stable. External chaos doesn't shake you the way it used to. Winds don't inflate you. Losses don't destroy you. You stay centered. This alignment also creates patience. You understand that rebuilding is not a quick transformation, but a daily practice. Some days feel powerful. Others feel slow and frustrating. But your direction stays clear. You're no longer trying to escape yourself. You're building yourself. There will be moments when one area weakens. The mind gets tired. The body feels heavy. The spirit feels distant. That's normal. Rebuilding isn't perfection. It's awareness. You notice the imbalance and correct it. You rest when needed. You push when necessary. You reflect when lost. Over time, the noise fades. You become quieter but stronger, less reactive, more intentional, less desperate, more disciplined. You don't need hype to move. You don't need pressure to perform. You've trained yourself to operate steadily. That's real power. A rebuilt mind thinks clearly under stress. A rebuilt body stands strong under load. A rebuilt spirit stays grounded through both success and failure. This is what makes you unshakable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger in every dimension that matters. And once that alignment is established, you're no longer just rebuilding yourself. You're becoming someone who can't be easily broken again. Living like you owe the world nothing is not about arrogance, selfishness, or isolation. It's about freedom. It's about cutting the invisible chains that keep most people trapped. The need for approval, the fear of judgment, the hunger for validation. When you owe the world nothing, you move differently. You think clearly. You act with intention. You stop wasting energy proving yourself to people who were never going to understand you anyway. Most people are exhausted not because life is hard, but because they're constantly performing. Performing to be liked. Performing to be accepted. Performing to meet expectations that were never theirs to begin with. Every decision becomes filtered through the question, what will they think? And slowly, without realizing it, they hand control of their life to opinions they don't even respect. Living like you owe the world nothing means reclaiming that control. It means understanding that you were not put here to impress strangers, satisfy critics, or meet timelines created by society. You don't owe anyone success on their schedule. You don't owe anyone access to your energy. You don't owe explanations for your discipline, your silence, or your ambition. Your life is not a group project. This mindset begins when you accept a hard truth. No matter what you do, some people will misunderstand you. Some will criticize. Some will project their insecurities onto your growth. If you let that stop you, you will live cautiously forever. But once you accept that disapproval is unavoidable, it loses its power. You stop trying to manage perceptions and start managing effort. When you owe the world nothing, you stop announcing your plans. You stop seeking permission. You stop explaining why you're tired, why you're focused, why you're unavailable. You let your actions speak over time. Quiet consistency replaces loud intention. And that silence, it confuses people, but it strengthens you. This way of living also strips away desperation. You no longer chase recognition. You don't need applause to stay motivated. You don't need validation to confirm your worth. You measure yourself by your standards, not by external reactions. That internal scoreboard creates stability. Wins feel satisfying, but don't inflate your ego. Losses hurt, but don't destroy your identity. There's power in being misunderstood and continuing anyway. When you owe the world nothing, you stop overgiving. You stop pouring energy into people, places, and habits that drain you. You become selective, intentional, protective of your time. Not everyone deserves access to you, and that's not cruelty, it's clarity. Boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They protect your focus so you can build something real. This mindset also changes how you handle failure. When you're no longer performing for approval, failure becomes private, educational, and temporary. You don't spiral because you're not embarrassed in front of an imaginary audience. You adjust, you learn, you move forward. The pressure lifts and progress becomes cleaner. Living like you owe the world nothing doesn't mean you lack compassion. It means your kindness is genuine, not transactional. You help because you choose to, not because you're afraid of being disliked. You give without expecting validation in return. And when you say no, you say it without guilt. Guilt is a tool often used to control people who don't realize their worth. Once you let go of guilt-driven decisions, your life becomes simpler. You stop overcommitting. You stop apologizing for growth. You stop shrinking to keep others comfortable. And yes, some people won't like the new version of you. Let them go. Anyone who requires you to stay small for their comfort was never rooting for you to begin with. This way of living creates resilience. When you're not emotionally dependent on outcomes or opinions, setbacks don't hit as hard. You don't crumble under criticism. You don't get distracted by praise. You stay centered. That emotional neutrality is dangerous in the best way. It makes you consistent. Consistency beats intensity every time. When you owe the world nothing, you work when others rest. You rest without guilt when needed. You move at your own pace. You don't rush success to prove something. You don't quit early to escape judgment. You trust the process because the process belongs to you. There's also a quiet confidence that comes with this mindset. Not loud, not performative, calm, grounded. You don't need to dominate rooms or announce your presence. You're comfortable in silence because you're not seeking approval. That presence is felt. People notice even if you're not trying to be noticed. And perhaps the most important shift is this. You stop living reactively. You don't let headlines, opinions, trends, or comparisons dictate your mood or direction. You become internally driven. You decide what matters. You decide where your energy goes. You decide when to engage and when to walk away. That autonomy is rare. Living like you owe the world nothing doesn't make you disconnected. It makes you deliberate. You choose relationships instead of clinging to them. You choose purpose instead of pressure. You choose growth over image. And over time, that creates a life that feels solid, earned, honest. You don't need to prove yourself to the world. Prove yourself to yourself. Show up daily. Keep your standards. Protect your focus. Let results take time. Let people doubt. Let them talk. None of that pays your discipline back anyway. When you live like you owe the world nothing, you stop asking for permission to become who you were meant to be. And that freedom, that's the final stage of the rebuild. So here's the truth, stripped of hype and comfort. Rebuilding yourself is not a phase. It's not a trend. It's not something you do when life gets easy. It's a decision you make when staying the same hurts more than changing. 2026 doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about what you meant to do. It will only reflect who you became through your actions when nobody was watching. You've already felt the discomfort, the dissatisfaction, the quiet frustration of knowing you're capable of more. That feeling was never there to break you. It was there to wake you up. Rebuilding yourself means accepting that no one is coming to save you and realizing that this is actually your greatest advantage. Because when you stop waiting for permission, motivation, or validation, you become dangerous in the right way. Focused, grounded, unshakable. You've torn down illusions. You've built discipline. You've let the old identity die. You've aligned your mind, body, and spirit. You've stopped living for approval. That's not a small thing. Most people will never do this work. They'll stay distracted, comfortable, busy but unfulfilled. You don't need to judge them, just don't join them. From this point forward, move quietly. Let consistency replace talking. Let standards replace emotions. Let effort replace excuses. Some days will still be hard. Some days you'll feel tired. Some days progress will feel invisible. Keep going anyway. Because one day, without fireworks, without announcements, you'll realize something has changed. You're calmer under pressure, stronger in silence, more disciplined than emotional, more focused than fearful. You won't feel the need to prove anything. You'll know. And that's when you'll understand the rebuild wasn't about becoming someone new. It was about becoming who you were always supposed to be, without fear, without apology, without limits. Now don't look for motivation. Look for work and do it.